Oh boy, I have got to talk about this. So, I made a video a couple weeks ago here on World of Geekdom where I talked about why I think The Marvels, the upcoming November MCU film that is a sequel to Captain Marvel and continuing the story of Miss Marvel and some of the other characters in the MCU, is going to flop. And a lot of it actually does not have to do with wokeness or any of that kind of stuff. I understand that people don't like wokeness. I understand there's been a constant sort of, I guess you can call it political back and forth online, but most mainstream casual people don't really follow that kind of stuff. I analyzed it more so based on trends and based on how superhero fatigue has definitely hit and people are being a lot more careful with their money. Is there a section of the audience that will not see this movie because of Brie Larson or because of Captain Marvel? Yes, but I think the vast majority of casuals, people who aren't really on the internet, who just want to go see a movie on Friday night, who don't really read these articles, I think it's different, a different audience. However, just because they are silent does not mean they don't exist. Now, I want to discuss this tweet right here from MCU The Direct. It says here, from the director Nia DaCosta, who directed the movie and is the creative force behind it. Nia says the biggest difference from the other MCU movies to date is that it's really wacky and silly. Oh boy. So, according to this filmmaker, Nia DaCosta, this movie's really wacky and really silly. And that's the biggest difference. Now, keep in mind, the biggest difference. So by her logic, Thor Ragnarok, Love and Thunder, the Ant-Man movies, some of the TV shows like She-Hulk, those weren't silly and wacky. But this is. So it's one of two things. Either Nia DaCosta has not seen any other MCU films and is not familiar with the franchise she's even working on, or her idea of wacky and silly greatly differs from the rest of us. Because if Nia DaCosta thinks that the Marvels, what makes it different is that it's wacky and silly, how much more wacky and silly can this franchise be? Can this movie be when comparing it to movies like Thor, Love and Thunder, which was almost too wacky and almost too silly to take seriously? Or some of the Ant-Man movies. I'm not just saying Quantumania, I'm saying a lot of them have a more of a comedic approach. This was a very bad quote because already people are not looking forward to this film. Already people are already hedging their bets on its success slash lack thereof. And I've talked about how Brie Larson as an actress does seem to bother a lot of people with the statements she makes outside of the movies, but the reality is there's very few people out there that I know outside of even the internet sphere that really love Brie Larson. Like, how many people have said that's their favorite actress? Not many. Not many. So she doesn't draw. To me, she's not really a draw. Now, I could be wrong about this. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, but I don't see her as being a draw. She's not like a Robert Downey or somebody who has sort of clout with the audience. I don't see that from her. And I don't see the Captain Marvel character being a draw. And with Secret Invasion not exactly having the most promising finale, I am going to double down on what I said and say that I think The Marvels is going to catastrophically flop. And after seeing this filmmaker saying the biggest difference between the other MCU movies is that it's really wacky and silly, that tells me that this movie could end up being one of the stupidest movies they've ever put out, and might even make the first one look like it's fine art. This was a big mistake, yo. Big mistake. Marvel's problem is that too many of their movies, and this is one problem of many, too many of their movies have that same sort of Marvel humor, that quirky humor that is kind of overdone. We saw what they did with She-Hulk. We saw how they made us think they were going in a different direction, or made me think, maybe I'm the fool here. Then wound up doing some garbage that was just still mind-boggling. I don't think this movie's going to do well. In fact, this could end up being the biggest flop. This could be the biggest flop of the MCU ever. Seriously, it really could. On top of the fact that Quantumania promised Kang, which is an important character, and it still wasn't well received, followed up by, or not followed up by, but accompanied by other movies prior to it in Phase 4 and Phase 5 that actually had characters that people wanted to see on screen, and those didn't do well. And then The Flash flopped. There's too many things going against this movie. And I understand they can't just shelf the movie. They can't just cancel it. They can probably put it on Disney Plus, but they're probably going to give it at least a theatrical run before giving up on it, because they've spent so much money on the movie. But my God, this quote right here, somebody needs to contact Nia DaCosta. Maybe Kevin Feige already did, and tell her, do not talk about this movie anymore, dude. Don't. I think this is a mistake. I think this is, I'm not going to say it's catastrophic, but it just once again goes with what I was saying about why I think this film's going to flop. Nobody cares about these characters. It's unfortunately the case. And they had a chance to make it somewhat interesting if the premise of Secret Invasion would have led into it with the Nick Fury storyline, and it didn't really tie that much into it, nor did it really matter that much. And Marvel is just not doing themselves any favors with this. They're going to have to put it out because with the writer's strike, it's going to postpone other projects. It already has. But this is a very bad omen for the future of this movie. I think this movie, based on everything I've seen, I'm not looking forward to it. And you know me, man. I'm not one of those guys who makes 100 videos a day about anti-woke. Woke does not bother me as much as other people does, although there are some examples where it will, like Ghostbusters 2016. But this right here does not fare well for my enjoyment of this movie. What do you think? Let me know.